Have you ever failed a test so hard that you started to believe that you were the younger brother of Jesus Christ, then started the largest civil war in the history of the world? Well, if you haven't done that, then I guess you're doing better than Hong Xiquan. So Hong Xiquan was born in 1814 in the Qing Dynasty. Now, the Qing Dynasty is based on a meritocracy where you can take government tests to get really good jobs. So though he was born poor, he technically had an ability to become very wealthy by taking and passing these tests. The problem is they had a 1% passing rate, meaning you could fail with a 98% correct. So Hong goes and takes it the first time, and he fails. And he takes it the second time, and he fails. And then on the third time, he fails and has a massive mental breakdown. Who hasn't had a massive mental breakdown after a test? Well, Hong took it to a whole new level. He goes home and goes into like a coma-type state for 3 days, and during that time he has multiple fever dreams, which include him meeting this godlike figure, and then him and his spiritual brother fighting off these demons. And then he gets up and realizes through a pamphlet that he'd gotten from a Christian missionary, wait, my brother is Jesus Christ. Now, Hong at this point becomes a Christian, kind of. He starts preaching his own version called Taiping Christianity, which included things like the fact that men and women, even if they're married, are not allowed to have sexual relations. But he is allowed to keep a harem. He also went to his cousin and asked for 3, and I quote, demon-slaying swords, which is the most anime this story gets. Now with his demon-slaying swords being made, he's like, well, it's about time to get to slaying those demons. So he starts knocking over a whole bunch of Confucius and Buddhist statues, as well as preaching a lot of anti-government rhetoric. Now, a lot of people start joining him, not because they liked the religion he was preaching, but because they did not like the government. So he gets to 10 to 30,000 followers, and then the Qing Dynasty is like, we better send in an army to disperse them. And they do. The problem is, he's got a bigger army. So they end up repelling the attack and killing the local magistrate, and that's how he founds the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, his own country. After his first victory, Hong thinks, well, how hard could it be to take over all of China? The answer, very difficult. He starts west of Shanghai and Nanjing and starts moving north and west. He does very well going west, but not as well going north, and he stops just short of Beijing. Now, at this time, he's got a couple generals that start believing that they are also God or prophets, and this town's only big enough for one godlike figure. So, of course, Hong has them executed. The problem is he is not a military leader at all, and so he can't even be drug away from his harem long enough to conduct any sort of battlefield activities, and thus he starts losing, especially when the Qing stop fighting other proxy wars and focus purely on defeating the Heavenly Kingdom. So 14 years later, yeah, this was a long civil war. Hong is in his last besieged city. They can't get food in or out, and he believes God will send manna for them to eat, like in the Old Testament. The problem is, he doesn't quite know what manna would look like, so he just goes in his backyard and starts picking up random plants and eating them, and some of them happen to be poisonous, and he dies shortly thereafter. So the Qing take the city, and then they dig up Hong's body, and then they behead his body, and then they bury him again, and then they unbury him again, and then they cremate his body, and then they pack his ashes into a cannon and blast him off into the abyss, because how done are they? So if you're worried about finals right now, don't be. You cannot fail as hard as Hong Xiquan.